Here's what happened, guys. You might not have heard, but since the beginning of 2025, our federal government has made 16 deals for some equity stake in private companies or in companies, both publicly traded and private. They used over $20 billion of our taxpayer money to make this happen. I'm surprised this isn't talked about more in our society because, on its face, this is an unprecedented action by our federal government. We have this Fed slot being given to us that our economy is strong and resilient right now, rather than in a major economic crisis. The previous times that the government has intervened in companies for equity has been during economic crises like 2008 and the Great Depression. So, what does this actually mean for our small businesses? Are we going down a slippery slope of losing our private property? Is this a step towards the federal government seizing the means of production for a socialistic system? It's not crazy to ask these questions when you were informed about our world history. Where things don't make sense, as I've said before, be curious and ask questions because I don't know about you, but I absolutely wouldn't want our federal government having a stake in my small business and then directly influencing my business decisions. I'd like a future where there isn't a federal equity stakes in businesses. So welcome back to the RD Week show. Happy Tuesday, guys. I'm going to share with you some of the deals that have been made since 2025. 2025 here. I'm gonna share my screen, so be patient with me, guys. And please, if you haven't yet, subscribe, leave a comment. It helps to get the show out there to more people, and it can help me to hire a producer faster so that this doesn't take as long. So let me get this up for you guys. Okay, so here we go. This is one of the benefits of AI is being able to quickly synthesize the information that's out there to be able to really answer the question of, okay, what have been the deals that have been made so far since 2025, and then the total amount. So as you can see here, using Gronk, as of as of right now, there's been 16 equity deals or relating to equity stake, and it's totaled around over 20 billion. So that have been committed, and again, that's our taxpayer dollars that are being committed here without us asking the question of, hey, do we actually want to invest in these companies? And then just thinking back to the influence too that can have on these companies and decision making, and are they being influenced directly by the government? We have to be curious here and ask more questions. So some examples here is Intel. I've talked about that before here on the show, relating just a few shows back. So this is roughly like a 10% stake, and you can see for the amount of shares. MP Materials is another one. Then you have Lithium Americas, Trilogy Metals, U.S. Steel. So these are some examples that are part of these deals. Some examples of companies that are part of these 16 deals, but what it highlighted for me was, okay, the influence that this can have on certain industries that get priority over other industries across our over 1,000 industries in the US. And this is where we get into that slippery slope of crony capitalism, where the government and global corporations can be working together in order to stop new innovations that can happen, or to stop competitors entering into the marketplace to be able to disrupt the industry. And that can be due to higher regulations, higher compliance, higher, all that leads towards higher barriers of entry. And then it can be very difficult to go and compete against these big global corporations, and that's where you can get this consolidation of power across these industries. Where industries, there could be like a handful of companies that have 80% of the market share, and this pushes against, and it's something we as a movement have to reject, which is we have to reject this crony capitalism. We have to reject these steps can move us potentially towards socialism, the appetizer to communism, because where those roads lead is the abolish of private property, which includes our ability to own our small business. And seeing this happen during what is considered not a major economic crisis time period here, it gets us to then have to question what is going on with our economy right now. Is there the AI bubble, which we talked about that yesterday, and I believe yes, there is. The what we can see for where things don't make sense, for the amount of investment on paper to how long it actually takes for the infrastructure to get built out, and then how there are communities that are questioning whether they want a data center or not, and there are a lot that don't want one and they want delays. Signs point towards a bubble that's there. And so, what does that mean then for your small business? Well, first, it's having to be prepared for the chaos, right? You could be already sensing and feeling the chaos that is out there. We go back to this war with Iran and energy prices. Then we can go back to the amount of debt that we have as a nation, national debt over $39 trillion. Then you can look at consumer debt as well, or individual household debt, and how massive that is. And thinking back to credit card debt now over $1 trillion, or more than $1 trillion. So there are a lot of these signs that point to more future chaos. And my hope is that we don't go down that path and we can actually make a change here and move towards a future that is that is making America's future a small business renaissance. And so what happens here is we got to strengthen then our relationships. So within your industries, being able to strengthen your relationships with your vendors, with your suppliers, making sure you're understanding what their challenges are, what they're dealing with, so that you can be better prepared for the future and plan for that with your decision making, understanding now your cash flow and how much money to make sure that you have set aside for potentially more chaos that could come or disruptions in the supply chain. This is where small business owners that are just going to get by, that are just getting by, are going to get exposed, and we can see that even with AI coming into across industries. This is a moment where we have to raise our standards in our understanding, not just in the industry, but then not just in the business, but also in the industry, and then notice patterns across other industries. And so this goes back to with specifically these deals. This becomes a major red flag that we have to reject as small business owners. Where actually, let's move towards a future where there is not federal equity stakes in businesses, where we can actually have that autonomy and freedom to make our decisions without being directly influenced by our federal government. And so the way we can do that is actually to not feel like we're just trying to stay above water here. And so that is where it's being prepared for the chaos. And when you understand the basics of your industry and your business, at worst, you're going to be a better decision maker. At best, you're going to be unstoppable. And then what you can do for the next step in that is recognizing, well, where's the fairness then in this across industries? Because if certain industries, which is was looking like in here, you have the minerals that can be then used for semiconductors that can power AI data centers in our computers. We've known that for what certain industries are getting priority over the rest. And it's time that we're in this moment of massive change where we have to get back to fairness in our society, fairness across our industries. And then, of course, with that comes a realization of where is there unnecessary regulations and unnecessary compliance that we have to have that is happening in our industries. Because I'm going to get to this later on for in a future date for talking about the amount of compliance and regulations that are out there. I try to look this up on AI. I couldn't even find an exact amount of how many regulations are out there in compliance, because you have it within the agencies to the U.S. code. It is massive. We just talked about how the U.S. tax code is over 40,000 or over 4,000 pages, and that we have to look at, does this make sense? Does this make sense to have more of the regulations, more of the compliance? Is this becoming more of a burden for small businesses? And we have to remove unnecessary taxes from small businesses where it doesn't make any sense. And then make sure that we are having fairness across our industries. But what we have to remind ourselves is we got to start to understand who is our elected officials on a local level, state level, federal level, and start building, start understanding who they are, what they believe in, and then being able to voice the challenges that you're experiencing in your industries, to be able to push back and realize, okay, this is not, this isn't, this doesn't make sense in my industry. I have certain regulations, and being able to voice that and make sure that we continue to just say the truth, because the truth, it can be uncomfortable at times, it can be even shocking at times, but can give us peace of understanding with clarity where we can go into the future. And it comes back to what we need to make sure for our future is that we do not have more federal equity stakes in businesses. We have to reject that with this movement, and then be able to move more towards free market capitalism, where we're able to get out of this corruption that can happen between big government and these global corporations, and make sure that we are bringing small businesses first rather than last across our industries. So if you're a small business owner who wants to connect with other small business owners in person to shape the future of our country, and to be able to connect with businesses across industries, you can join us for A Future Fest. That is happening in Charleston, South Carolina. This is where you can register, is afuturefest.com. January 14th and 15th, 2027. It's happening in Charleston. The plan is to have over 300 small businesses coming together to be able to shape the future of our country. And when you can get perspectives across industries, you can start to notice similar patterns, and it can better prepare you through clarity for the chaos that's coming in the future. And from there, being able to create stability in the business and in the stability in your life moving forward into the future, because stability is the antidote to chaos. So I'm excited for that event, and I'll see you guys